He would boil it down to two possibilities, really: surrender, or actually the same quote-unquote result with self-inquiry. So self-inquiry is the who am I? And actually he would clarify it from whence I come. From whence does it come? He would say, he actually thought that was better, that's kind of questioning. And really what it is, it's what you're not questioning what you're not. So they both get negated. So that which you're not asks that which it's not, who am I? And then usually the first response would be me, and then you're meant to sort of stick with it a little. Don't go, okay, thanks for clarifying that. You know, maybe push it a little farther. And then start getting into the habit of asking, of letting the attention be behind the critiquing of the acting or the seeing, the doing, to the subject of it, basically. So let's say there's worrying about next week. The emphasis wouldn't be on should you or shouldn't you be worrying about next week. It would be who is it that's worried about next week. Yeah. So you would see usually there's a noticing of something, and then there's a reaction, mental reaction of critiquing it, comparing it, checking it, you know, doing a lot of activity based on the action, be it a thought or a feeling or whatever. Yeah. So the habit is to go more onto the object of what's being observed, not knowing that the observation of it distorts it right there. Yeah. So the whole idea of who am I is attempting to let the attention go the other way. So instead of, all right, because the real meaning of that's given to worrying about next week is it's you. You wouldn't give a damn if someone else is worrying about next week. You don't care that much. But if it's you and it runs into an idea of you, which is, I shouldn't be worrying about next week. I've been practicing for 30 years and to be in the moment, whatever. Yeah. So it triggers a whole lot of minutia about what you're not really. Yeah. So that act of worrying about next week is the minimal influence. It's all about it's you. And what does it mean to the you that's worrying about next week? Yeah. So this who am I would just turn the attention, instead of it constantly going and lighting up the mental reaction to something, it would go to the assumption that's always implied by the actions. The assumption is that there's a you that's doing the action or being done to by the action. Yes, and that you is sort of clothed with the idea of being a body. So when there's a sense of you that gets conjured up, it's pictured as a body somehow. Yeah, even when it has nothing to do with it, the body will seem to be the doer of it. Yeah, like thinking. Obviously, the body's not thinking, is it? No. I mean, hey, the body's not thinking. So why is this important? It really isn't, but then it is, because if we're out to lunch, if you don't know the exact nature of what's going on, you're going to be living from the produced false nature. That's all. And therefore, it's sort of like the dilemma of the sheep trying to become like a lion, but as a sheep, while all the while being a lion. You know, that would be a little problem. There's no big deal about studying the sheep, but it's valuable if you're not the sheep. Yeah. So the who am I is basically asking the assumed sheep, you know, are you a sheep? Yeah. So with the hopes of getting to the point where the asker and the askee negate, and there you are. Yeah, and then when it's obvious, there you are, the obviousness can be so strong at a moment, it tells you it's always been that way. And so when everything regroups and restarts doing its little magic trick, there's an assurity that's in place. Yeah. Now what they would call you're abiding in the truth of what's been revealed. So the energy that you see mostly as anxiety being produced out of what's not happening, that energy resting in the assurance of what you are would be the abidance in truth. It's the same energy. Its effect here is based on what it's put in. Yeah? So most people are putting the attention and interest. We're not, but the attention and interest is going into the reinforcement, the assuming, the inferring, the suggesting, the implying that you're a historical action figure. That somehow you're the possessor or the cause of shit you really have nothing to do with in most cases. Yeah. So the who am I is a simple tool that what you're not can use, yes, to try to ask what you're not, what it is, so they both negate, yeah? So the one that's not you is the asker of who am I, yeah? And then the thing that would respond, saying me, is what's not you. So they both negate each other, and then what's left is what's always been available at all times, yes? And now instead of trying to find out what's left as what you're not has negated itself, so there's just what's left. And let's say, all right, that hits you, and then suddenly the circus is back in town, the tents go right up, you got your little 3-ring, you're the fucking maitre d' or whatever, the MC or the clown, yeah? But now there's a reserving of something. Some of the attention and interest isn't, it may have paid for the, the circus seat, but it's not totally engaged in the circus seat. Yeah, it knows the circus seat is going to go up and down, and so now there is a knowing, or actually a being of that which you are, that starts overriding the circumstances and the situations that are being used to imply what you're not. Yes, so you and I can outshine circumstances and situations. We can outshine assumptions, referrals, presupposing, assuming, believing, having faith in. We can outshine all of that as what we are, because it's self-effulgent. It's on, yeah? It's on. There's no off or on switch. It's just inherently available. On your worst day, you're seeing what's happening, and on your best day, you're seeing what's happening. The seeing isn't predicated on what's bad or good, or, oh, I don't want to see that, or I want to see that. You're just seeing, yeah? You're just seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, and there's no real volition in it, yeah? I mean, you put something in your mouth, you're going to taste it. And say, I never wanted to have that taste, but you had the taste. Yeah? The tasting already happened, and then the idea that you had choice came after when you have no choice. You know what I mean? It's amazing. And yet we don't see it. We just assume, I don't know what's going on, really. Because can you imagine just being lullabied when you're 57? When you're a baby, lullaby, you go out, pretty nice. But now you've just been lullabied into sleep all day. Not believing all the consequences and the meaning that is being given to what comes after is based on that mistake. That's all. You're taking yourself to be someone who's fucked. And then the fuck is given so much meaning, and then it searches for verification of that. So a lot of the mental state is so sure it wants to be right about being wrong. Yeah? And it fucking just keeps on keeping on. And you become the arbiter of that mental commerce instead of being above it or beyond it or around it. Yeah? Which has never changed by any of its shenanigans. It really hasn't. All the signs that were in the sky yesterday are dissipated. They're not there anymore, are they? I'm a loser is gone. You look up right now, you'd have to remember that you're a loser. It's not telling you you're a loser now, is it? No, we bring the past clouds into every day's new sky, and we just paste them there, yeah? And we don't get any fucking light, but we get to be right, yeah? I see it with recovery. People just don't feel they deserve being sober because they've done some terrible things. So they're driven to go out, they get loaded, and they get to be right. You see, I don't deserve being sober. It's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? So this is such a simple message. And if you like the technique of self-inquiry, It will bring you to where you never left. That's all. Yeah? And after getting brought there enough times, it may hit you, you've never left. Like that great statement, upon having never left. That's really how it stabilizes. Yeah? The stabilization is upon having never left. It doesn't matter how many maps the mental state says, well, this is where you are now, fucking in Topeka, or whatever, constantly displacing you based on some idea. Oh, you didn't do your workout today. The day's going to be bad. You didn't do that. It's on and on. It's always based on fucking circumstance. It always has its conditional conditions. Yeah. It's not rising above it. There's no need to rise above it. You are above it, and you're below it, and you're around it. Yeah? You are that context. Why would you want the content to override the context? Just have the horse in front of the cart. Context, horse, then there's the cart appearing to go and come in the content. Yeah? But does it go or come anywhere? In the context, it's never fucking left. The action figure may be broken. Does that mean you're broken? No, it doesn't fucking mean you're broken. It can mean you're broken when you're identified as the action figure. And you're never identified as the action figure You're identified as the action figure in the mental state. Yeah? The mental state is identified. You're never identified. Yeah? The mental state is identified as the doer, the thinker, the feeler, and it attributes it to the body. And it proves its little imagination by producing effects. I feel pain, therefore I must be real. This isn't about getting out of pain. It's realizing you're not the one who's suffering. Yeah? Where the diminishing will occur, actually the pain may be amplified because you're awake, but the suffering will be diminished. The pain of this moment won't imply it's going to be like this forever. The head will imply it, but you won't see it that way. Yes? You don't see all your failures of yesterday, all your defeats of yesterday don't spill over to today. They don't, unless you call them forth. And the mental state is always whistling into what's not happening. It's what it does all day. It wants to bring what was and what it believes will be to what is. Why? Because it can't get rid of what it is, but it can paste over it. It can paste over all the bulletins, all the posters of yesteryear, and all the predictive posters of the future, and therefore you don't even see what's happening now. You're looking from yesterday and tomorrow. This is why it's important to see what's going on, because you're at the effect of it. You're at the effect of your own ignorance, literally. If you're ignoring something, then all your attention is paying attention to something else. And that something else is defeating us right now. It's causing us to believe that there is no possibility of things getting better. Or it's always going to be this way. Or some other fucking crazy idea. Yeah? This message goes right to the point. That's all it does. And this is truly, the real point is what's going to confuse that which you are about that which you are. It's the identification as what you're not. You get displaced so quickly by the selfing, you assume you're starting somewhere where that what you are doesn't seem to be available at. So the seeking gets produced, and the seeking is used to imply the seeker. And then even when the seeking has failed, it hasn't failed being used to produce the seeker, therefore the seeker is blind to the failing of the seeking, and that's its value. The value of seeking is that it fails you, so that you can hopefully see this doesn't work. But now the seeker is so invested in the seeker, it can't give up the fucking seeking. Even though it's introduced to an answer, it won't see it as an answer because it doesn't have anything to do with it. And it can't imagine an answer that has nothing to do with it. It feels like it has to do or have or maintain or be vigilant or constantly on top of things. It's an overwhelming responsibility. It doesn't have the position to be successful in. What you are is being what it is. It's not doing and having what it is. It's not being vigilant about it. It's not in the maintenance of it. It's maintaining itself by being itself. No matter how many shenanigans are appearing on the surface, has it affected what you are? Has it really affected what you are? You can have a terrible situation, and even in those seeming simultaneous moments, there's so much light's available. Sometimes in your worst hours is the most incredible clarity, because it never gets outshined. The moon has borrowed the light from the sun. It can't use that light it borrowed to block it from the sun. If you follow the moon, it will all go back to the sun. That's what Who Am I is. Who Am I knows that if you take everything back to the source, you're not the source as what you're not. The source is always available at all times. So by letting what you're not negate itself by looking for itself, what's left is always there at all times. Now when the selfing arises and implies there's a self, you're before it. You're not coming awake after that production. As a self, you're seeing the production. It would be like the cloud. A cloud today could stop me from the sun in this position, yes? But a cloud can't block me from the sun if I'm on the sun side, can it? I'll see the exact same cloud, but it has no ability to block me from the light. This is what it's like, yeah? Your seeming position gets shifted, and now you're before all that which comes after, instead of being a product of what comes after that negates the idea of the before, to the point that you're looking for it. All you need is one robbery. You can see the modus operandi for every other future robbery. So when you see what you're not, you see it as me. If you see it as not you, that's clear, yes? If not, it'll be that you'll play the policeman, the thief. You'll keep catching the thief, but the thief is in cahoots with the policeman. It goes on and 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 on. All right, I've got to be vigilant. Why not, instead of go into a topic and talk about vigilance for 4 hours, ask who is it that thinks it has to be vigilant? If it's not you, then all the conditions of vigilance get disrupted, don't they? They're all based on you. The importance isn't on the vigilance, it's on who is it that thinks it's important. Just see, if you're beholden to that, which is not about you, you can drop it, yes? So ask, who am I? It's not like you don't say it, you just sit there. And you can tell, you can feel the flow of attention and interest. It's got the manufactured stream is out, yes? It goes out and out. And when it seems to go back in, this is out. This isn't in, this is out. I'm seeing it. This is content. So the attention and interest, which is of context, goes out into content all day, and then we think we bring it back to context, being me, but I'm not context, I'm content. So it's always out. The interest and attention never goes back to the source, seemingly, to get re-fucking plenished, yeah, to get some reanimation, and then goes back. So now you have the incredible movement of breathing in duality, in, out, but now it's just out, 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 out. This is out, thoughts are out, brain is out, Opinions are out. You're fucking looking at yourself. It's out. Out, out, out. Ask, who am I? Or from whence does this come? See, check it out. Where does it lead you? Right where you seem to be. Exactly. Right underneath this whole huge facade is what you are. It's never been moved. It's never been pushed aside. How can something push aside everywhere? It only appears in time to be before. Therefore, you're looking here. This is what we are, and this is what we're not. When what we are takes it to be what we're not, yeah, it starts looking for itself this way. Yeah? All the while as what it is. On and on. That's all that time is. Time is this, going like that. Looking for itself in time. So what is the looking in time? It's just the seeing of no time. Seeing of no time, appearing in time, is looking. Seeing in no time, when it appears in time, is looking. That's what looking is. It's seeing appearing in time. So we're using the timelessness of seeing, calling it looking in time, to look for what? The seeing. We miss it because we're looking in time when it's always available at all times. If you see what you're not, that which is appearing in time, then the seeing, by seeing itself in what you're not, sees itself. Yeah? It's the seeing of what it is in what it's not is how it gets to see what it is. Yeah? It's seeing what it's not, which is it, yeah, in time, it sees what it is. By seeing what it's not, that's the closest it can get to itself, yeah? By seeing what it's not. So the looking we're calling looking, our looking, is seeing in time. You don't want to be, which is timelessness, you want to become, which is time. I want to become seeing in time. And I'm going to use seeing in time, which is looking, and I'm going to keep looking for better things and more efficient paths and this or shit like that. And I'm hoping this looking is going to lead me into finding what is seeing. Yeah? All the while, you're using the Buddha to seek the Buddha. If you see you're not that which is looking in time, that's the seeing of what you are. By seeing what you are, you see it as what it's not. Yeah? Seeing in time tells you the seeing is timeless. Yes? That didn't even make sense to me. It made sense to me. It's hard to speak it because if you don't, there's like here, there's these currents of time going on, and the currents of time have an incredible, it's sort of like when you shake up the surface of water, it's wild, yeah? You know what I mean? It's almost like entering a house of mirrors. You know, you look at the one mirror, it makes you look super thin and long, and then that's sort of the ripple of time. So time is like the greatest obscuring effect, yeah? It's just constantly weaving like imaginary threads that seem to coagulate, and then you can't see anything. But what happens if you see time? Yeah. If you're so fucked, and then you can be unfucked in 5 minutes, how fucked were you? Really, how fucked are you if it can disappear in a second? I would think that would be pretty suspicious. Don't you think? I mean, how many of us have tried to get out of ourselves? And you're always here. You put great hope in, if I have an epiphany, that should do it. It doesn't. Incredible peak experiences, they don't. As long as time is involved, you're going to be regrouped, yeah, and it's going to be you. And then you become a collector of spiritual experiences, a collector of epiphanies. But it's like big game hunting. You got big fucking spiritual heads on your mantelpiece, but there's still whatever. I would just wish we could just fucking stop. Just stop for a second. Yeah. No matter how real it seems, just stop. Because you're the thing that's giving it all the meaning it has. If you stop, fucking things stop. They do. If you really stop, things will reconfigure. Yeah? I've seen people talk to me for 30 minutes about their situation, and I said, yep, you're fucked, you know? No out, no way out, and then the next day, they start getting out. Just by entertaining the possibility that their fucking forecast may not be true. Just the simplest little bit of willingness. And then I watch them in recovery, and they just fucking blossom out of what you would have called dead soil. You know, they were totally screwed. Yeah, it doesn't stop us. We outshine circumstances and situations. Why don't we start acting like them? Yes. Yeah. So if it doesn't seem to be working for you, whatever it is that you think is going to work for you, if it doesn't seem to be working for you, it's really working there. But just throw in the who am I, if you want to. It'll give you something to do. Yeah, and then, oh, sorry. Yeah, the mic is in here. Sorry. It'll give what you're not something to do. And maybe it'll keep it off of you for a while. But I'm speaking in my shirt here. I just wouldn't, you know, we can edit this, right? Yeah. I'd like to see people travel lighter. I would. Yeah. I mean, I know we all have our burdens. But there's an add-on to it, an add-on, yeah? And I think we have some say in that, at least, yeah? The add-ons. Maybe the bulk or the meat of something, it's not meant to be changed. You're meant to sort of fit yourself around it, and there's stuff you'll learn from it. But I think there's a lot of add-ons that could be dismissed, yeah? And maybe see all the influences that are really being brought about by entertaining what's not happening. That could be dismissed, yeah? You don't want this Saturday to be compared to 50 other Saturdays. You just don't. It's not going to stand up well, yeah? Because they're all made up mythical Saturdays by now, yes? You can't have how you are today compared to how you were yesterday, and then, you know, forecasting how you'll be tomorrow. Wouldn't you just like to punch the clock out on that fucking job? You're an expression. You're not a cause. Yeah. Leave it to the cause to change the expression. Yeah. The cause as the expression can observe and record in. Yeah, but allow that which is the cause to change. Yeah. I don't think you need to take on that role. And hopefully you'll see that you'll travel lighter, much lighter, as that which you're not. And in this place, and it doesn't mean it changes everything gets great, though it can, yeah. It allows you to fit yourself around circumstances, that's all. And then to see what's in and of the circumstance, and to see the add-ons. And the add-ons can be dismissed because you're the one that brings the add-ons to the situation. You bring a lot of the meaning to it. If that could be changed, maybe the meaning that you think is in that situation, you would see it in a new light. Yeah? You have to realize you're obscuring everything by your observation of it, and especially your own condition. Going over the action figure all day, you're obscuring the fucking hell out of it. And if you have like hypochondria, you're probably as healthy as a fucking bull, but thinking you're fragile, gonna get the next fucking chicken flu or whatever. Yes? You gotta start responding to fucking the obviousness of it. Yeah? Like you're okay today. Yeah. There's this guy I saw, we could definitely cut this out, but there's this guy I saw on the news. He's got Lou Gehrig disease, and he was talking about Medicare for all. And he says, you know, I'm gonna die soon and stuff, and I have a son and a wife, and you know, time is valuable. And I don't see the point of staying on the phone for hours talking to bureaucracy when I could be spending it with my fucking kid, you know? Let's get on with it and fucking see this as a human right, just healthcare. And the amount of resistance that's there for that just blows your mind, you know? But his value, the idea of how time is valuable is because of the timelessness of it, yes? The exquisiteness of that, you know, like when you hear everything and you hear about all this shit, and then you look out your window and there's a tree that looks completely untouched by it all. Yeah, it withstands and overrides all the circumstances in Facebook and society and politics. Just the one fucking tree. It's untouched by it in a way. Yeah, overrides it, doesn't get moved by it. Yeah, but how much are we? You know, so much brighter than the tree in a sense. Yeah. So this idea of, you know, it's the timelessness of today that's the value of today. We can start in that honoring, not the story that it's Paul honoring, but in the honoring itself as an activity, which is an activity. If you've been struck by anything such as this, you probably have a deep well of gratitude around something, and you have a great honoring of something. And it's not a badge that the action figure wears, it's before the action figure. You're honoring your own nature, yeah? You're grateful that for that which we are, as all these people can't be put out by circumstances and situations. We can outshine them. Yeah. I think when Jesus, you know, said to the cripple he could walk, probably the person didn't have crippled legs. He was just crippling himself, you know, believing shit and believing this and believing that. And then Jesus saw with certainty that that has no ability to cripple you today. And he said, get up and walk, you know, get up and live. Simple message. And because he was in the certainty of that possibility, it could have a profounder effect. Because in that person who believes so much of what it's not, the certainty was still there. It just needed something to ping on. So Jesus was that pinging, so to speak. So he says, it's done according to your belief, bro. As you believe, so it is. So I think he rose up a lot of people who weren't physically crippled. They were crippled. They were crippled by fucking anxiety and fear and belief in what they're not and what others are not. And that belief could only have so much power because of what's wielding it. What we are is unbelievably potent, you know. To be in the role of giving everything all the meaning it has is not a small little chore. That's not a small little position. That's not a victim position. It isn't. To be the dreaming of the dreaming is way beyond being an object in a dream. To be the dreaming of all that we're seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, to be the projecting of all this is mind-boggling. Yeah. You'd have to be empowered to feel so unempowered, don't you think? To feel lack of power, there must have been a sense of huge power there at one point, and maybe in point of timelessness. To feel that unempowered, you'd have to have had a sense of huge power, yeah, to me. I don't see how the mind could compare it with anything. Yeah. And I feel like, and it doesn't mean you're gonna burst out and be a fucking top 50 Billboard singer. You're just gonna be available to what's happening and be of use to that availability, and just be, aware of the obvious, that you're inherently awake. Awakeness is expressing right here, right now, in seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, touching. If there was any volition, it would have all gone to fucking hell. Yeah. Can you imagine if you had to pump your own blood? You would have been distracted by Game of Thrones. You'd be dead. You just fuck. If you had the thing knew not to give us much power, that which is all power. It didn't. Unfortunately, this thing made a megaphone. But yeah. Yeah, let's and do you need a motto to travel here? How about do no harm? Not a hard one. Jesus, do unto others as you would have done unto you. That's not a spiritual practice. That's just fucking common sense, isn't it? Jesus, wouldn't you want to have done unto you I don't want something to happen to Chris that I wouldn't want to happen to me. I mean, did I have to go to a 52-week class of that? I mean, I think it would be pretty obvious. Yeah, do no harm. Yeah, that sounds like a good way to go. You know what I mean? I mean, they seem to be like fucking a lifelong commitment to do no harm. I mean, shit. You give yourself some space for mistakes, obviously, but it shouldn't be a huge, master's degree. It says do no harm. All right. I don't know. I don't see how this has turned into spirituality, really. I think it's another way of pledging allegiance to our own unempowering by wishing and hoping to be empowered later by someone else or some teacher or some fucking thing. Yeah. Yeah, that's my little opinion piece today. I see it with recovery people. I'm just so tired. I mean, really, that which we're not uses time to produce uncaused effects. And then we believe it all. And we sort of fit ourselves to that little role, Yeah. I saw it, personally, I saw it when I was young. My mother was very powerful when I was young. And then she used to take us, she used to work, so at 5 o'clock she'd come home. My father was dead for a while then. Take us to the beach, go swimming, watch the sun go down, fucking every day pretty much. And then as days went on, she started to drink. Then she started just to fall asleep on the couch, drunk. And then never got back up, really. Now the power didn't go anywhere, but the belief in lack of power did. Yeah, yeah. Now, like we have people here, Z, stuff like that, had cancer, has cancer, has a lust for life, which is awesome. You know, it's just awesome to see, because a lot of people would have packed it in, you know, would be able to be right about how fucked they are physically, and just sort of, you know, just sort of corrode slowly. Yeah. Well, that's that. I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted to say today. You know, no matter what the circumstances, they never are ink tattoos. They all can be washed off. Yeah. I got run over. This has affected me ever since, every second of every day, pretty much. My physicalness. Yeah. When I was there in the hospital, if I would have believed their forecasts of what my life is going to be, I would never have fucking gotten up, really. But I didn't see them as authorities. I didn't. I had an authority. I didn't know what I'd call it, but I knew it wasn't them. It wasn't doctors. And, you know, it came to pass that I was able to do quite a lot over the years, yeah? Just by entertaining possibilities, you know? Not entertaining their possibilities, because their possibilities were quite defining, yes? And once you buy that definition, it's very difficult to get out of the definition, yeah? Just like when people take something to go to sleep, that becomes addictive, and then they can't get out of the thing that they were using to get some sleep. And then they have to take something else to get out of that fucking addiction. And the something else, the side effects are worse than the fucking thing they did originally. Yeah? Once you step in, the door likes to close behind you, and then you're stuck in a way as the action figure. The only thing that can see through that is possibility. Don't let your light to be defined by others, really. Just let your light define itself, how it shines. Go with it, yeah? Follow that. Instead of, because I've seen people, I don't know, I just feel like some people here have suffered, and I'd like to see them not suffer as much. And maybe you can't have a lot of say over a lot of things, but you do have say over certain things. And that is the believability and the affiliation with that which is describing what's happening. Yeah? Because as the Course in Miracles says, the brain interprets to the body of which it is a part. I'd much rather have a different interpretation of life than the brain's interpretation to the body. I would, and there's possibilities. You can open up, in the Course it would call the Holy Spirit, in recovery we call it the higher power, but the higher power and the Holy Spirit will take the same basic metadata, the same data, and turn it into something completely different. Yes? It's amazing. So if that channel that you've been listening to broadcasts dire consequences all fucking day, you can cancel the subscription at any time. Yeah? You can get out of life without Comcast. Or I would call them unclear channel. Remember clear channel? It's all unclear channel. Yes? So, there is information that's being collated prior to thought, and you can be dictated by that instead of the information collated and interpreted after thought. I would go with the former, if you possibly can, than the latter. Yeah? The latter, you'll be the star of it all. But you may not want to be in the all that you're the star of. All right, well, that's that. Not personal today. I don't care. I'm really tired of seeing my friends and people I know. Not even friends, I'm just tired of it. believe, so it is. So when people are, and you're getting agreement for some story that you seemingly have, that agreement is going to lock you into that story. Yeah, it's sort of like that sense of being the doer. You get owned by what you do. Sense of being the thinker, you get owned by thoughts. Sense of being the feeler, you can get owned by feelings. Yeah, it's a weird deal. You get to be the doer and the thinker and the feeler, but then you're at the effect of all that's felt and thought and done. Talking into the palm here. So hey, any questions today? We're not going to have a talk next week. I'll definitely be much better when I come back. I've just had it with certain stuff. I have. You know, I truly believe this message is profoundly on the money. But not at the expense of being a citizen of Rome. You got to do what the Romans do. You can't, I don't see it works trying to use non-duality as a skillful means, though it can be used that way, but not by you. Yes? Yeah. Today I'm a big proponent of who am I for the people that seem to be in situations that they're trying to work out starting after the situation. Why not ask who's before the situation? Yeah, maybe that'll bring new light to it. Yeah? What change? You know how it changes? Let's say you're like a camera tripod. Yeah? You don't talk to the camera, just move the tripod. You'll see it from a different point of view. The camera will be cameraing, but now it'll be a different collation of the information. Yes? You can be moved. Your view can be moved. Yeah. All right, that's that, eh? You want to get, honey, can you get that basket? Stop? Yeah, stop, I think, yeah. We'll have to edit that one.